If you pull it apart, it means hallowed Eve. And if you were going to go back, quite a few centuries to the time of the Celtics period, the Roman period. The Celts lived in France, what they called Gaul, G-A-U-L at that time. The reason I know that is because when I was in high school I had to take Latin. And we had an official text from Cicero himself, all about Gaul, divided into 3 parts. All Gaul is divided into 3. That's how this essay started out. That's about as much as I can remember. But anyway, tonight was a very special night in the Celtic world. It was the end of their year. The harvests were in, so it was time to celebrate. To be grateful for the crop. And also to welcome and beckon in the next season, which started tomorrow, the new year. And they looked upon this period that's closing, October 31st, as the end of the light. And they saw the next period as the beginning of darkness. But darkness was not an evil. It was just simply darkness. Because this is the winter. This is when things sleep. This is when things hibernate. This is when all the leaves fall off. So we go back into a kind of darkness in order to get ready for the next. And they had the special word that the Gaelic use. It's hard to translate or even say sometimes. It's spelled S-A-M-H-E-I-N. And it doesn't pronounce anywhere like it's spelled. It's basically called so-en. That's what the word means. I mean, that's the way you say it. And they used to have dancing, and they had a wonderful drink called poteen, which was highly intoxicating. And they used to thoroughly enjoy themselves, and they would dress up in animal skins. Guess what that led to? The costumes, huh? And that got carried on. Now when the Christians came and attempted to Christianize Ireland through the great work of what we call St. Patrick, it was typical of Christians to take major festivals and put their own spin on them. You know, it's very hard to change the psyche, the consciousness of a people who are used to having certain festivals, because those festivals were always associated with nature. It's much easier to change words than it is to change nature. So why not keep the festival, but put our own meaning into it? And so, for the Christians, they changed the calendar. This was not the end of the year, it's just another season. And they made the end of the year more towards the end of December. Because they took, for example, December 25th was the feast of a sun god. And so that's when they decided that's when Jesus was going to have his birthday. We don't know when he was born. But that's what they did, because they wanted to take the energy and the attitude of the people, and instead of worshiping the sun god, now you put Jesus in his place. But back to the Irish, what the Christians did with this day and tomorrow, as you know, tomorrow is what they call All Saints' Day. So this was a feast when you would celebrate the deceased. You would remember your loved ones who've left the body. You would honor and pay tribute to all those who led an exemplary life, which sometimes we would put saint in front of their names. So this is when this next 3 days would take place in the Christian era. And that's how Halloween, as the Irish understood it in the Gaelic period, finally got supplanted by the Christian era as it came in. Now, things change. And of course, we don't always like change. And sometimes things don't change enough for us. So either we don't like the change or it's changing too much. And of course, our minds want to modify, resist, alter, overcome, supplant. And we get upset, of course, when things don't work out the way we want them to. And we feel quite justified in our feelings. And we try to create new rules, perhaps, to ensure that this won't happen again. As you all know, Paul Wellstone died in a plane crash some days ago. And this is a special, crucial period because we've got an election coming up. Huh? And now that the invitation has been sent out and accepted by the former Vice President, Walter Mondale, the party now has their champion in place. And the tensions and the drama goes on until next week. Now, we all pick our champions. People we admire, respect, want to follow in their footsteps even. And so we make a choice, and we notice the consequences of that choice. And if we perhaps don't like those consequences, we change. We modify that choice, or we leave it go, choose something else. We are constantly evolving in some way. Not the way the biologists understand evolution, but in a broad sense, we are changing, and we feel, we think, that by these changes that we've initiated, introduced, that this somehow will enhance our life, for the most part. Nobody likes to endure pain for the sake of pain. It's not fun. And at the same time, we occasionally question ourselves. What direction am I going? If this is the right direction, how come it's so hard? If it's the right direction, how come others aren't doing it? And at the same time, we notice other people seem to be engaging in life in different ways and having one heck of a wonderful time. And yet we, at the same time, with our choices, we don't seem to be having one heck of a wonderful time. Oh my, what to do? Well, then you meet this silly yogi who comes along. I'm not talking about myself here, please. I'm thinking of an imaginary upstart that shows up on your block one day and says, "Hey, you, why are you worrying so much about the future?" "What do you mean I should? I got bills to pay, I got children to raise." "Uh-huh. Why do you have to worry about it, though?" "Well, I just do." "Yeah, I know, but do you enjoy that?" "No." "Then why do you do it?" "Who are you?" Right away, get defensive. And the yogi says, well, maybe there's only really two choices in life. "Whoa, what do you mean? I got all this?" No. Step back for a minute. Behind all your particular choices that govern your day, at work, at home, traveling to and fro, taking a holiday, behind them all, there's only maybe two choices you've got. What are they? Well, on the one hand, you can choose for freedom, and on the other, you can choose for attachment. And everything you do is going to be one or the other. Now you have to decide which camp this current choice falls in. See, this is like the big pot. You got two huge pots over here. One's called freedom, one's called attachment. If you choose attachment, you're going to have pain sooner or later. If you choose freedom, you still might have pain, but it won't bother you. Ooh. That's a little different than this, because this really bothers you. This may not bother you. You just see that as part of life. Oh. And you're not overwhelmed by it, you're not despondent by it, you're not cynical from it. You simply see it as part of life. And even if you can see that, you'll probably have less intensity of the pain than the person over here who doesn't understand it from that point of view. So each day then, as we begin to get up in the morning, we have to choose. Do I want attachment or do I want freedom? Today, as I get ready to go to work. Where does my mind go? What worries and anxieties are coming in right now? Because if they are coming in, you're already in that pot. You've chosen attachment. Because you've chosen to worry. Your choice. Now you probably would like someone to help you out. Wrong choice again. Because you're going to be disappointed if nobody comes and helps you out. That's more worry now. So now we're linking our worries. We're very good at that. We make necklaces. You know, we create amazing links of our anxieties, our consternations, our regrets. We always like to link them to the past, too. That's very helpful. Gives a lot of reason to worry, then. Well, things have always been this way. I've always been treated this way. My friends always say this about me. Oh, good. You just keep forging those links. And all you're doing is you're imprisoning yourself in your attachments. And the consequence is pain. Pain. And when you're in pain, you don't think straight. You can't. It's not possible. Because pain clouds the mind. Whoa, you're in a catch-22 now. I know you don't want to be in pain. Yeah. But you're in pain. Yeah. And that's why you can't be out of pain, because you're in pain. And you've accepted that as your reality. Oh. But I don't want it as my reality. Oh, yes, you do. How do you know? Because you're still in it. You see, that's kind of tricky. Wait a minute, let's back up here a minute. I don't like the circumstances I find myself in. Yes, you do, because you're in them. Who put you there? Did God suddenly say, I'm going to make you feel pain? Huh? Did your mother, who's been dead 15 years, say, I'm going to make you, grow you up in such a way that you're going to have pain on your 45th birthday, the way you've got it now? You created that situation by the choices you made. You are getting exactly what you want. But I don't want it. Yes, you do, because you're in it. That's reality. That's all that exists, is reality. Nothing else exists but reality. And if you're in pain, that's your reality. And you've caused it. And it will stay there as long as you keep choosing it. It's that simple. There's nothing difficult about it. Why'd you do that? Because I wanted to. I want to lose weight. No, you don't. I want a better job. No, you don't. That person over there, she disturbs me. No, she doesn't. You do. You're overweight because you want to be overweight. You're in your uncomfortable job because you chose it. You're saying that about that other person because you chose to say it about the other person. It's not the other person who's doing it to you. You're doing it to yourself. This is the terrifying thing about the mind. It creates a prison, or it creates a field of freedom. So it's incumbent, when you're on your path, to begin to occasionally take a look. How do I make my choices? Which direction do I take them? The day you can start blaming society, your parents, the weather, the Republican Party, anything, for the way you are, is the first day you're starting to discover freedom. The first step is to acknowledge that you're attached. First step. And a lot of people don't like to admit that. It's your fault for the way I feel. Oh, that is a beautiful one. You make me feel the way I do. Oh boy. Now you can get away with anything. Anything at all. The moment you start from that principle, you can justify anything then. You know? You made me feel this way. I'm upset, and it's all your fault. Really? If you want to continue to endorse that conviction, that's what you're going to get, that conviction. And nobody can take it from you. You don't have saviors. You don't have rescuers. You don't have people to wave a magic wand, now all your suffering is over. Sorry, it doesn't work that way. You can pray till you're blue in the face. Nothing's going to change. So the thrust of yoga is to recognize that you only have two choices. Those that line up on the side of attachment and those that line up on the side of freedom. And you are always at that crossroads. A friend of mine is a consultant. He makes about $300,000 a year. Okay, maybe $285,000. So he may not have such a hard life financially. And he was down in South America for about 8 months. He works for a firm that sends him to different companies to help them achieve a new project or to make a self-assessment on what seems to be a loss of sales or something like that. And he's very good at it. Very good. He's very objective. He's personable. He can get people to talk to him. So part of his methodology is often to go down to a company and just walk around with permission, talk to the employees, talk to the middle management, engage them in conversation, and get a feel for things for about 3 or 4 days. And then make a report. He was sent down by this firm to go visit this particular company in high tech down in South America, I think Ecuador. And he was there for a long time. And finally he wrote a long report and he submitted it to the company that had actually hired for this assessment. And he met with the president of that company. He gave him a report. And the president read the report and said, "Listen, Bill, you know what I'd like you to do? I'd like you to change this report. We'll go back and re-examine. You've gave him an A-. Now, we're planning to negotiate and buy that company. And based on your report, we're going to have to pay top dollar." You get what I'm leading up to? We'd like you to give him a little lower, maybe a D. That way we don't have to pay so much. You get my drift, Bill? Well, Bill would have to sign his name to that report. And Bill had to make a choice. And he said, "Sir, you asked me to make this assessment. I have no, as best as I can recall, I have no bias either way. I simply took the facts and put them in the report, and that's the conclusion I draw. That's the only conclusion I can draw. Bill was promptly fired. But he knew that was coming. He knew the minute he resisted that president, bye Bill, we'll get somebody else who will give a D report so we can buy the company. Now, with that, he lost an enormous amount of income. Because the company that had sent him down there was upset that he took that stance too. And today, he's making 1/10 of what he was making a year ago. But he's happier. He chose it. He's not, at night excoriating them for what they did. He said, okay, they made their choices, I made mine. Life goes on. They're in their realm, I'm in mine. I'm doing exactly what I want to do. I had dinner with him recently. We're very much afraid to make choices that free us, because then we can't blame anybody if something goes wrong. If you tell me something to do and I do it and it doesn't work out, I can come back and blame you now. And so there's always this, in a sense, a kind of thrill, tension, drama, if you will, that occasionally a major situation shows up in my life, and it's not whether I'm going to have 2 eggs or 1 egg. No, it's a major decision. It's because it's going to affect my lifestyle. It's going to affect my relationships with people, including those close to me. Sometimes those come up, and this is where you get a chance to define who you are. Do I want to be attached, or do I want to be free? And by the way, society often doesn't endorse those who choose freedom. In fact, they tend to shun you. So it's important to realize the full implications, because when you choose for freedom, you are alone. It's a solitary option. And please recognize it as that. You're not going to get help. You're not going to get any guarantees. There's no warranty. You can't take it back later and say, okay, I changed my mind. Sorry. That's not the way it works. And that's, to me, is what yoga is all about. Because sooner or later one day, you have to renounce everything. But I'm a householder, I know that. You're going to have to renounce that too. And yet, at the same time, and here's the incredible paradox, you have to continue living as you were in the world. Because when you choose freedom, you're really choosing renunciation. Renunciation means I will not abide by attachment. When I chose the orange, that's what I was saying. I made a formal gesture there. I said, no more. In giving up, I have to redefine that for you people, because a lot of people misunderstand what it means to be a Swami. Doesn't mean I can't enjoy the world. It means I don't subscribe to attachment. Now, if I fail, that's my problem. But that's what the sign of being a Swami means. And this is a gift. I can't take credit for it. I'll do my best. But in a sense, all of you have to become a Swami. You're married. Yes, I know that. But at the same time, you have to recognize there's nothing in this world that can define you. Nothing. If you think so, you're attached. And you're asking for it. Because then if you lose that, you've lost a chunk of yourself. And a lot of people are running around with holes in themselves. They don't realize, and that's why they're in pain. Because they think they're missing something. They can't have it anymore. I lost my spouse, therefore that's the end of my life. Really? Why? I know you love her, so your love doesn't die. I lost my child, so your children cannot define you. You can't define them. This is not easy. You got to think about this. And so, in a sense, you have to bring it up occasionally out of the throes of your pain. And occasionally, the pain itself becomes an ally then. It forces you to come to that crossroads and say, whoa, what am I doing with my ability to choose? This power, this marvelous power I have in me. I can abuse my life, or I can take it to the sky. So we have to see that what we're really doing is we're writing chapters. And we have to recognize that when certain chapters have closed, are over, you go through a horrendous divorce. Oh, all those years I gave him, and look what I wind up with. And you keep rehearsing that in the coffee shops as the weeks go by with your friends, and they commiserate with you. Yes. You know, you've got this whole litany. You'd love to submit that resume to his next job. But you can't, huh? You can't go back and rewrite history. Some things will occur over which you have no control. You can't control the weather tomorrow. You can't control driving down the street. You don't know what the traffic's going to be like. You don't know what NASDAQ is going to show up tomorrow morning. Hey, stop trying to control things that aren't controllable. Start to understand, what can I control? What can I not control? Nature, another major step. Another major step. Don't worry about getting it too refined. Let's get some of the bulky things. Hey, I can't control this lady's moods. If she wants to take offense at something I'm doing, and I feel I'm quite innocent, can I control that? No. I can't control the fact she gets on the phone and says, do you know what about that, Swami? I can't. No? And so if I sit there and try to figure out how I can please everybody, I'll go nuts. And we do that, don't we? And this, sometimes we foist this on groups of people, on genders. Oh yes, I don't have to mention who. You know, unless you do this, I won't love you. We do that to children a lot. We set conditions. Oh God. We don't recognize the uniqueness of this being in front of us, and how to help it draw out its own potential. Instead, no, I know what's best for you. And if you don't comply with my standard, I hold back my love. Boy, talk about control. Don't try to control life. Try to blend with it. Be an Aikidoist. Join with the flow. Then you play. Life will give you plenty of chances. But first, join with it. Find out what is really there. What is reality? Is it simply my projections, my expectations, my ambitions? Or is there something else there that's going on? You all came in at a particular time in history. Because you wanted to. You all know certain people. Some you met and you found almost instant allegiance with. There's reasons for that. Some you've left. Fine. When I grew up in Chicago. I had a bunch of buddies. We were in grammar school, high school together. We played touch football in the fall, and had our big turkey bowl. And we got into our 20s, and we'd go to the bar on Friday nights and talk about our lousy bosses and everything else, you know. And one day I discovered yoga. I met Swami Rama. And suddenly my buddies couldn't understand that. I said, it's just a guy. They didn't like the fact I was involving myself in yoga. I said, it's not a religion. And I thought, okay, I'll just deal with it. But then they got mean. They actually started to hurt me. I said, oh my, I've got to make a choice here. Because I'm not going to let anybody do that to me. First time, you get away with it. Second time, it's my fault. So, as you discover what reality is, you realize that there are many, many things you cannot control, but you have to learn to adjust, you have to learn to blend, you have to learn to, as it were, go with the flow. And in that process, you discover a wisdom. You'll learn how to base your security not on the standards of society so much, on the structures of the world around you, but on something in here. Something that cannot change. Something that's immortal, out of which your peace of mind comes. This is where the security really lies. That's hard to get to, because it's not tangible right away. It's more of a feeling. But that feeling begins to consolidate over time. And then you start to live from it. And that's how you touch lives, without even knowing it. And so I welcome you to the new Gaelic year tomorrow. Let's leave the past go, gang. We can celebrate it. We can pay a tribute to it. But we don't want to drag the pain from the past into the new year. Let that go. It served a purpose. Fine. It taught us some lessons. It can. But we don't need to constantly redefine ourselves from the past. Don't do that. You're not a child. You're not a teenager. You're not a young adult. But there is something you discovered. Something, I may quote the words of an American architect whose buildings I visited a few weeks ago out in Spring Green, Wisconsin, Frank Lloyd Wright. He was interviewed, and he was 90 years old. I couldn't believe it, because when I looked at him, the facial features, the bearing of the man, I would swear no more than 50, and he was 90. And this is what the journalist wanted to know. What's your secret, Mr. Wright? He says, well, let me put it this way. He said, we've all experienced being young. We lose it. But there's another experience of being youthful. We don't have to lose that. That's my secret. And I hope you all enjoy that.